record. All right, people are coming in here. We'll get some more, but I'll get started by just introducing Zane and Kelly. Well, you can introduce yourselves, but on behalf of the ATA, we want to thank you for your willingness to present to the advisors on this important topic of academic advising with international students. So I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to you guys and get started. Thank you.
Thank you, Kate. Hi, I'm Kelly Dixon. I am the Director of the Office of International Students and Scholars.
Hello, I'm Zane Harvey. I'm a project coordinator here in our Office of International Programs. Be going over the agenda here for today. So we'll start off by touching on a few just fast facts about kind of our international student population. I'll spend a moment talking through our verification form process within our office. I'll touch on a brief recap of what we went over in session 2. And then I'll be passing it off to Dr. Kelly Dixon to go through the main challenges facing our international students today, the process of communicating immigration updates, financial, academic, professional, social, and mental impact in today's climate, ending on some best overall practices for effective advising, and then leaving room for a Q&A session at the end. Any questions throughout the session, feel free, you can put them in the chat, or otherwise we'll be addressing them at the end. So some quick fast facts. Wayne State is home to more than 1,200 international students, representing 78 different countries as of this fall's enrollment. The top 5 countries being Canada, India, Bangladesh, Nigeria, and Ghana. In terms of students, international students who are living on campus, 22% of them do, as opposed to the 12% of our total domestic student population that live on campus. And this incorporates both undergraduate and graduate level. Shifting on into verification form process, there are many different kind of types of verification forms, but they all kind of seem to follow a similar trend or a theme or bit of information that a given sponsor may be looking for, or a government or embassy might be looking for. And so a lot of ones that we receive are degree verification form. And so these are actually handled more directly by the registrar's office. But the rest, it kind of falls under the Office of International Programs umbrella in verifying the mode of study for student enrollment. So that could be, while there are limitations on the amount of online hybrid courses that international students can take, some embassies, governments might have additional requires that are stricter beyond U.S. government guidance. And so verifying those, providing the information to embassies, different pieces are how kind of we verify that. There's also verifying the credit requirements and the duration of the program, the equivalency of the degree. Oftentimes we'll get a language of instruction verification form. So just confirming that courses were taught in English. And this could be for either international or domestic students who may be pursuing studies in a different country, and they just want to see and get that verification that their courses were taught here in English. And so 2 of the most common places where the verification forms kind of come from are the Kuwait Cultural Office. And so each semester they request verification of non-traditional courses. So generally that's the online hybrid courses, courses that might be taught off campus, any internships or otherwise, and verification of enrollment. And so the full course list of everything that they're taking this semester, and how that relates to their degree progress. Next would be the Saudi Arabian Cultural Mission. There's a bit of a typo there, but the Saudi Arabian Cultural Mission. And so these are largely for students who have already graduated in the past. And so they might be looking or seeking for employment in Saudi, and they need to see, kind of the course curriculum and primarily looking for, online enrollment and how that was done or not done by the student that they're referencing. Next the plan of study that everybody here is, familiar with. Many, sponsored students will be requiring this, though it's not exclusive to just students that are sponsored. It also is good for kind of international students across the board, helping to ensure that immigration compliance and keeping students on track and in the know of, the classes that are offered, when and where and how, and making sure that they meet those standards. Shifting on next to quick recap of OISS responsibilities from last sessions. So OISS is responsible for immigration and compliance services, providing guidance on visa regulations, keep maintaining legal status and the necessary paperwork, handling any essential reporting and compliance with governmental regulations, providing non-academic advising as part of student services, the appropriate on and off campus referrals, and managing, overseeing that health insurance requirement, helping our international students to navigate the U.S. health insurance system. Another piece would be the programming integration side of things. So that would be organizing activities and programs to integrate international students within U.S. culture. So that would be largely open to international students, but also domestic, international, cross-cultural experience as well, and kind of encouraging university involvement sort of across the board, whether that's, student clubs, getting involved in their classes beyond just the class session times, and just kind of making sure that they feel and are a part of the campus life. So that leads to, I'll pass it off to Dr. Dixon to talk about some of the challenges facing our international students today.
Thank you very much, Zane. Okay, I'm just going to go over some of the current challenges that are facing our international students. Our international students are facing visa uncertainty. And you probably have seen or read or heard about all the different frequent changes in the visa policies and requirements. This leads to confusion and stress for international students. The travel restrictions is another challenge. And those are limitations on international travel due to shifting travel bans and security measures. This impacts the students' abilities to travel home to see their family and even to attend academic conferences out of the U.S. There are immigration policy shifts, which, those are changes in immigration laws and practices. And those lead to uncertainty about the ability to remain in the country after graduation. Our students also are impacted by cultural adjustments, meaning that they are adapting, they have difficulties adapting to the academic and social environment. They often experience feelings of isolation and homesickness. And then, like many people, it's not just limited to us, but our international students also have financial constraints. You're looking at the cost of education, and they have limited access to funding or scholarships. And these financial strains are on the students themselves and their families. Now, in these last couple of months, I know you've heard in the news about so many changes in immigration policies, whether they're actually pending, they have been approved, or just thoughts about, and all those types of things are impacting our students. And so some of the things that we have found, we have to be careful in what and how we share information with our international students. They, like us, are overwhelmed by the constant changes in information that is out there. But we have to be determined what is official information and what is idle gossip, because we get a lot of that as well. But some of the things that we do find ourselves doing, that I do on a regular basis, is that I have to share the updates with university leadership, with students, as well as with faculty and staff. And the first thing I tell them is take a deep breath. hopefully tomorrow we'll get a new update that will change this information. And a lot of times within days, things have changed. So I try to be proactive with the information that's shared and accurate at the same time. The problem is that the interpretation changes on a regular basis until we get something ironclad. So, we have to be careful with that. We also are looking at how we communicate information to our students and university leadership as well. And so it's very important to use that clear, jargon-free language. The way that, as Americans, as we speak, is not understood by a lot of international students who haven't grown up in the US. So it's very important to be clear so we can prevent misunderstandings. But I would assume that you have experienced that in your own advising with students as well. We have to be culturally sensitive. So, paying attention to these nonverbal cues like frustration, or if our students continue to repeat the same questions, it indicates that either they're frustrated or they're not understanding. So, paying attention to those cues are very important. One thing that we also found is that establishing a dedicated point of contact so that individual or office will be responsible for any follow-up, so that they can deal with any individual circumstances that could vary between individuals. All right, thank you. So we also have to address challenges that, and I talked about it earlier, very briefly at the beginning. These are financial, academic, and professional impacts. So the financial challenges is, my office, we're very transparent upfront to make sure that the students understand. And as advisors too, we get students who tell us that, they were sent to OISS to help with their financial issues, challenges, meaning that we're going to find them money to pay their bills. We have no money, but what would be helpful is being, transparent in, the financial challenges that, our domestic students also have financial constraints as well. So what we do is that we make sure that they understand what scholarships are, point them there to those resources, and to make it clear that they have to apply and meet the requirements and deadlines of those types of scholarships. The academic support, you guys do a wonderful job in providing that, academic support. What we like is that when the students beginning their advising process as soon as possible, even especially for our undergraduate students, we don't want them to get towards, where they should be really working in their core courses and they haven't received, academic advising because they've elected not to, because you know how it is trying to get students in. But we really encourage the students to begin that academic advising process as soon as possible. If they have questions that they ask us about academic wise, we send them to advising. Depends on what program they're in. If they're in a direct admit program, it depends on where they will go to University Advising Center, where they go to their advisors in their discipline. So it really depends on where we send them to, but we make sure that they get that academic advising as soon as possible. We actually include information about advising in our mandatory check-in for international students. So we encourage them to start that process as soon as possible. We offer resources and programs, I believe that we should offer resources and programs that could possibly address the gaps in academic preparedness. And one of the things that I do is that a lot of times we get international students who are at the graduate level, who they are brilliant, intelligent, but they're struggling with English as not being their primary language. And so what I encourage them to look into ELI for some of the advanced courses that can help with writing and, those types of things. And that's what I mean by offering those resources to provide those gaps there. And then also having regular check-ins with students and encouraging them to connect with faculty directly if they need certain types of assistance. Career counseling is another area that is very, important, is that to encourage start their career planning early, because if students understand what their end product is, if not just the job, not just the degree, but what do they want to do when they finish at university? Some students have a plan that they want to do what is OPT, which is the optional practical training, getting a job when they graduate in their field. And depending on their field, they may be able to work up to 3 years. What are those plans? Is that something that they're interested in? And then do they want to maybe perhaps get an H-1B or find an employer that will sponsor their PR, which is their permanent residency? So it's about this whole career counseling that is very important to understand what their whole plans is, not just once they graduate, I got the degree, I'm going to find a job, but they have long-term trajectories that is very important to know. So it's from, we provide, connections with workshops, internships, career services, of course, at the university is wonderful, through other partnerships like the Global Detroit and the Global Talent Retention Initiative that is groups that their purpose is to help our international students find employment upon graduation, to fill gaps in certain fields in the state of Michigan, keep them in the state of Michigan and with jobs in their relevant fields. And, we also encourage our students and, to have these contingency plans. That means working with students to develop a backup plan just for career. What if you can't find a job? Or what about immigration hurdles that may impact it? Let's have a contingency plan for that. Then we also are looking at should be looking at addressing the social and mental impact. So developing these robust social networks, helping students connect with opportunities both in and outside of the classroom. So, we talk about the research, public service, volunteering, but connecting these students with the opportunities there. And then encouraging students to build a support network that includes their peers and mentors. Very important to foster a sense of belonging. A lot of times you have some of the most meaningful connections with or contact with students, and by promoting inclusion and the diverse environment is very important in that. Another thing is integrating our students into campus life. While they are international students, they are Wayne State students, so we do a lot of programming as well, but we also encouraging them to participate in the activities across campus. So not just limited to what OISS is doing. So, some of the things we encourage them to participate in, those learning communities, the campus events, the student organizations are another wonderful place for resources and connections for students, and look at ways they can do collaborative projects and research within their own departments. Another important thing is that mental health resource. So over the last couple of years, it's been I'm going to trace it back to COVID, where we really started paying attention. Now, mental health with international students has always been on the radar, but once COVID existed, it really came to the forefront to start dealing with the mental health of our international students and providing access to counseling services like CAPS and other services year-round. With increased changes in immigration policies that are impacting our students' abilities to remain in the U.S., we have noticed over the last year that we have to have added additional sessions that are led by CAPS to deal with these changes and how they handle those things, and to make sure that the advisors are responsive and accessible to students when they indicate that they may be having some needs in those areas. And we work with CAPS to funnel students to them when there becomes apparent that there's a problem or a concern, I should say, because so overall, what the things is that while I say stay up to date, on immigration policies and visa updates, really the reality is for as advisors yourself is to know where to get the information from. We don't expect you to know it. Send them to us so we can handle that. So, and we do provide, we're available and we provide services to students. As it states here, if you're unsure, reach out, call us, teams us. And, a lot of us are in teams and we're reachable really fast. Overall, I've stated this earlier, is that, it's very important that to foster trust and establish a connection with students, and providing a welcoming and inclusive space for students that will allow for cross-cultural exchange. Overall, the impact is that our students are vulnerable. The international students have unique needs. And I say this, but oftentimes we have to have, students are, irrelevant whether they're domestic or international, require patience and empathy. But our international students, there's another layer there that it requires us to have more patience and empathy with them. Alrighty, well, thank you very much. You have, Zane has provided all our contact information from OIP, OISS. Our email address is oissmail@wayne.edu, but I'm hoping that many of you have contact with the different advisors in OISS that you can reach out to them directly if you have an issue. If you don't have a contact, please reach out to me, and so that I can get you the information that you need for that. Questions for health insurance is oissinsurance@wayne.edu. We have a health insurance liaison who works in the office. Any questions regarding the I-20? We have is I-20 unit@wayne.edu. You can also provide those emails to students as well.
Awesome. I think
Thank
Jessica Charisse has a question.
Yeah, I see a question in the chat about ELI and the cost. So ELI, our English Language Institute, a lot of times students who maybe are just under the English proficiency test score requirement, but they do qualify for ELI courses, are able to enroll to work on their English before beginning their academic programs. And so successful completion of either 1 or 2 semesters, depending on where they test into, of ELI is the equivalent of meeting the proficiency requirements set by Wayne State. For our master's students, there is the option for conditional admission for certain programs. So students who maybe applied and they got denied because they don't meet the English requirement, they're able to request conditional admission. The ELI office works directly with the advisor and gets a preliminary review of their application, and then kind of setting in the space for ELI to first start with English and then shift into their academic program. And then your question about the cost, I did include a link there for the tuition and fees, of course, updated each year, a little bit different than the rest of the tuition costs. But there's residence and non-resident rates. And at this moment in time, ELI does not offer scholarships. And so that is an important caveat to, always include. One last piece I want to talk about ELI on is there are times where usually our undergraduate students, but sometimes grad too, may be admitted to a program. They meet the English requirement, or they've been otherwise receive that waiver from being taught and instructed and receiving a degree from one of the waived countries. but they may be still feeling that they're, struggling or having a hard time keeping up. The ELI is still open to those students. And so we have had times where a student will maybe sign up for one course instead of a full course load, or two. And if they want to really focus on the reading and writing portion of it, that's a good option for those students. But that does kind of still boil to an out-of-pocket cost or what otherwise sponsored cost, and not from their regular, financial aid package, whatever that might be. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Thank you. And
Absolutely.
is there any other resources? Because I have had students reach out where they wanted, more assistance with English language. And, if they can't afford the cost or whatnot, is there any other resources that we would be able to send them to that you know of off the top of your head? If not, that's okay.
Sure. Yeah. So yeah, we do get questions about that. And we always, make clear that it's not like a one-on-one tutoring session. It is a Monday through Thursday enrolled class schedule. Depending on where they may be falling short, we can recommend, like the Writing Center, or other tutoring options. But that's not under the umbrella of ELI specifically.
Anything else? All right. Well, we have the slides. We'll make sure to send them out, and that will include all of the contact information. We'll make sure that everybody has all of that, and the slides and the recording. So anything else, Amanda? Okay. I will hit stop on the recording.